don't know. It has to be his karma. But Jesus Christ was not an ordinary individual. Jesus Christ was an elevated. As a matter of fact, he's on the status of Godhead. And he bore his cross, and then he was crucified. I cannot say because of his karma he was crucified, but when he was crucified, at least he called upon the Father in heaven and said, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. Whether it is his karma caused it or not, I can't explain that.
Can you respond to that? Okay. Question for you, sir. How do you know that the Gospels of the Bible provide an accurate account of the life of Christ, as opposed to the Gnostic Gospels such as Thomas and Judas, etc.?
Well, that's a good question. The Bible, as I said earlier, written by 40 different prophets inspired of God over a period of 1,500 years. Most of them never knew one another. And you can follow a theme from Genesis to Revelation. It's all in harmony. Now, the Gospels are in agreement with the rest of the Bible. The Gospels do have some prophecies in them as well. They are in fulfillment of prophecy. And I didn't give you the prophecies about Jesus, where he would be born, when he would be born, when he would ride into Jerusalem, the very day that he would ride into Jerusalem on a donkey and so forth. These things are all foretold. And they are, the Gospels explain how Jesus Christ fulfilled those in his life, death, and resurrection. And the way Paul would preach the gospel, he went into the synagogue, Acts 17, for example, and he opened the scriptures. It says he opened their scriptures. He was always reasoning with the Jews out of their scriptures. And Paul and the other apostles would say, look what your prophet said about the Messiah. These are prophecies, and you cannot deny that they were all fulfilled in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. Now, I don't believe that there are any contradictions between these Gospels, but they are in fulfillment of prophecy, and they verify it.
Can you just indulge me for 1 minute? I'm not taking any side here, but just in terms of intellect and rational thought to respond to that question, because it comes up a great deal. My advice is to read the Gnostic Gospels. They're readily available. They're not hidden by anyone. Simply analyze the council that collected the canon as we know it. Look at how late these Gnostic Gospels were written. Look at the unreliability of them. Look at the research and scholarship involved in saying these 4 Gospels are thought known to be true, how they conceived vicariously through one person or another, they were accurate according to their beliefs. It's pretty foolish to think the Gospels written 300 or 400 years later, often to justify the writer and the writer's views, will be taken very seriously at the time. And to apply simple human common sense, some of the Gnostic Gospels are far more supportive of the Christian position and far more full of miracles than the Gospels that we have in Scripture. Why would they be rejected if they supported the Christian position? Because they weren't reliable. And sometimes common sense cries out to be heard, and it isn't, which is a great shame for everyone here, because I think we all regard ourselves as thinking people. Yes, question. If everyone is reincarnated, how do you explain that the world's population keeps increasing?
That is why it's increasing. Because everyone, you develop. When it is, if you become an animal, or whatever you may become, you not only reincarnate as a human being. When you can reincarnate as a human being, but you can, if it depends upon the crimes that you've committed, or whatever you have done, you can be born as a snail, and you can walk upon them. Or you can be born as a rat, living in some gutter. And then you develop and develop and develop, and then you become a human being again. So it's a whole development scale. It is depending upon how you live in this world. If you're a person who just go and bomb nations, etc., and bewilder people, leave children unhappy, then the karma will have to work on you. What you become, I do not know.
Very, very briefly, sorry, because we're trying not to go back and forth.
Sorry.
Well, if you come back reincarnated as a snake, now what does a snake do in order to get back to be a human? I mean, I don't know. I don't understand what a snake could do to earn that, to merit that.
When you're born as a snake, you got to be a good snake.
No jokes about politicians, please. So, you said God is within us. It is consciousness. You said Hinduism started 20,000 years ago. Did you say that? Where did Earth and universe come from if there was no God to create them?
God created, I explained to you the difference between Hinduism and the Abrahamic religion is they said that God created this and God created that. Hinduism says God, everything comes out of God like a spider's web comes out of a spider. So everything you see is God. The earth is God. Hindus pray to the earth. Hindus pray to the water. So everything comes out of him. And this earth has been existing for millions of years. During the dinosaur age, the ice age, and all these things. So this earth is not only 20,000 years, it's older than 20,000 years.
So if everything comes out of God, I guess sin came out of God. How did sin enter in? Pardon me, if everything came out of God, well then where did sin enter in? And you can't put it together. It doesn't quite, it's not quite rational. Now out of God, well then everything is God. If everything is God, then there is no God. Because God and not God, there's no difference between God and not God, because there's no such thing as not God, then everything is God. I mean, God has lost any significance.
You know, when you have a car, it has gasoline in it. It has everything in it, but it takes a driver to drive the car. God is the driver in that car. And if the driver wants to be inebriated and go and let a tree stop the car, then that is God is the one who is taking him there, because he cannot go without God's power. God is the one who is taking him there. This is the beauty of the philosophy of the Hindus. God is the one who is taking him there. God is the engine in every individual. He takes the person to its destination, whether it is good or bad. And so the sins come from each and every one of us. I have explained to you, desire gives rise to anger, anger gives rise to greed, and lust, and action. If that happens to you, it is God that is working in you. If God is not within you, you cannot do it. So the God is in you either in sin or in good things. The same God is in you. It is not easy to understand, but it is profound, and you got to think about it very carefully. But you wouldn't be able to understand it.
Very quickly. We can't go back into this over and over and over. So God is the author of sin. The author of everything. God takes you there, whether it's good or evil. God is doing it. That's not the God of the Bible.
Question for you, sir. Why would the loving biblical God be so cruel to send his son to be beaten and crucify him on the cross?
It's not that God is cruel. Man is cruel. This is not the world God made. This is the world we have made. And that's why I explain. You pick someone up out of the gutter in Calcutta, you're interfering with their karma. But the God of the Bible becomes a man, knowing what would happen to him. The Father knew what would happen. The Son knew what would happen. That's why I think there's such a powerful expression. It is finished. For all eternity, Jesus Christ knew that he would be on that cross, that he would be hated by mankind. It's not God's being cruel. It's God's mercy and his love. And wow, finally the moment has come when he has paid for the sins of the world. It is finished. He cries in triumph. Tetelestai, the debt has been paid. That's why God sent his Son, so that the punishment could be laid upon him and man could go free.
It's surprising that God has to take people's sins. Why people must not pay for their own sin? If you sin, you must pay for it. God must not take your sin. And why should Jesus be beaten because of other people's sin? I cannot see that.
We have taken the 35 minutes, and also a lot of people are leaving. So I think what might be a good idea at this point, and most of the questions have been used, if we conclude here, and you two will be out here in the foyer. So do stay for a while. Do go and look at what is on sale out there. Be here tomorrow if you can. Thank you so very much, and God bless you.